Lesson 17. Political Institution. Introduction. Government is one of the major factors in our contemporary life. One birth must be registered with the government at once. Government takes care of sanitation. Education is provided for us by the government. We pay taxes to the government for the money we earn in society. State policies and law affect the price of recreational activities, example, gambling and horse racing. Government provides medical care for us. It protects us from external aggression and from danger within the community. We fight for the state when it is in danger. It helps to take care of the aged. When we die, our death must be registered with the government. Thus, in every day of our life, we come in contact directly or indirectly with the government. Government in simple material culture. Government is very simple and hardly seen among the people of simplest material cultures. They live in isolated families. They do not have connection with any other external group. The family is their only social life. But the fact is that all primitive societies include social relation and institution which extend beyond the family. Such people are, for example, the Andaman Islanders and Eskimos. They have no specially constituted government as they have no established rulers. Whenever there is a need for group action, a temporary leader may be selected. Small bonds and small communities have a headman. Generally, the position of the headman is not hereditary. He becomes a headman only because of his abilities and special skills. The limited need for government in simple cultures. The size of the groups is so small that there is disorder among peoples of simple cultures. So the need for government is not felt very much by them. Their communities are small in comparison to modern communities. They do not have enough food to maintain a big population. Example, the food gatherers and hunters. The size of the community ranges from 15 to 200 persons. Under the circumstances, each person knows every other person well. Gossip and public opinion act as sources of social pressure. Things are very different in a modern large community which is characterized by impersonal contacts. A second factor which makes a formal government unnecessary for simpler culture is its stationary character. Social conditions are not the same for long period of time. Therefore, they cannot learn from experience. Like our libraries, the elders become storehouses of this knowledge. Finally, a third factor is the scarcity of property. Today we see most of the crimes are against property. In a simple society, the personal property of each individual is known to every other individual. Besides, trade and travel are not well developed. Hence, a thief cannot do much with stolen goods. In modern times, government is considered as an important agency of control. It may use physical force to establish order and peace in society. There is little formal government in simple cultures. But there are many procedures for control such as public opinion, blame, ridicule, shame and gossip. These hostile opinions of others force the individual to follow the conventions. Those who follow approved behavior will receive praise and applause from others. Institutions other than state are also interested in society, as for instance, in our society, the family, the school, and the religion. We know that the family is the foundation of society and a necessary condition for the development of the social life of man. The school is said to socialize the individual. Religion makes man human. In primitive society, the role of the family is especially important in governing small units within the community. Thus there are matriarchal and patriarchal families. They wield authority. The political state. We shall now study the origin of the state in our society. The following are some of the important definitions of the state. 1. A state is an organization which rules by means of a supreme government over a definite territory, defines R.M. Matver. 2. J.W. Garner gives a comprehensive definition of the state as a community of persons, more or less numerous, permanently occupying a definite portion of the territory, independent or nearly by external control, and possessing an organized government to which the great body of inhabitants render habitual obedience. 3. Lusky has said that it is a territorial society divided into government and subjects, claiming with its allotted physical area a supremacy over all other institutions. The state maintains order through a government, and not all governments are synonymous with state, for there is private government. However, government is so important a feature of the state that the two words are often used interchangeably. Also, the state involves the concept of a territory whose boundaries are drawn. The state has an overall government which is sovereign and supreme in authority over other governing agencies and other groups. Thus, the following characteristics are essential for any organization to have the status to the state: A. Population, B. Territory, C. Government, D. Sovereignty. The origin of the state. Before the state took definite form over a well-marked territory, there were rudimentary beginnings. According to Professor Gisbert, the question of the state is a similar example that applied also to the state. Because generations ago, there was a tendency to identify the state with society. In the simplest of societies of our times, we see the element of the state in a rudimentary form. Now and then it appears temporarily in society. The state emerges gradually in society when its population increases, the ways of food change become more effective, and wealth begins to accumulate. The state fulfills two kinds of aims: 1. Negative, and 2. Positive. The negative aims relate to defense, food productions, and the satisfaction of primary needs. The positive aims concern the realization of better system of product, on, and of a more efficient form of public administration. Therefore, the state is not a means for the protection of society but also for its improvement and progress. This is what Aristotle meant when he said that the state exists for the bare needs of life and continues to exist for the sake of the good life. In view of this, often the family and the state are considered as the most necessary institutions of society. It is a necessity to a complex society. Man is by nature first, familiar, secondly, social, and thirdly, political. Government in modern times. The structure of government in modern time differs in three ways from that of earlier times. 1. Very large area is governed. 2. The complexity of social conditions in the large area, and 3. The society is characterized by rapid social change. Territory. The areas of China, India, the United States, and Brazil are all large. It is a difficult problem to govern such large territories. But in modern times there are many contact inventions, such as the boats, railroads or telephones and radio, without which such large areas could not be governed, says Ogburn. Complexity of natural life. The society of a large state is characterized by heterogeneity. India is a secular country. People of different language, race, country are much greater than for a homogeneous people. These difficulties are seen in communal conflicts and group tensions which disrupt the unit of our country. Change. 50 years ago, the automobiles in India were negligible in numbers. During period, India has been transforming from an agricultural to an industrial nation. These rapid changes make the government to face new situations continuously. We pass a labour law at one session of Parliament and discard it for another at the next session. In the distant past, control was by custom. There is less reliance on custom when there are more changes in society. Therefore, governments find it difficult to keep up with changes. Since it is difficult of governments to foresee changes or even to adjust to them, lags tend to accumulate. Let us consider next the three characteristics of modern governments. Characteristics of modern government. Keeping order. Government still has the function of maintaining order over its territory. The problem of keeping order is somewhat greater for local government than formerly because of the growth of cities. The crime rate of the city is higher than villages. There are many thefts and lawsuits over property because the property has increased. Therefore, the police force acts as machinery for handling the problems. Even so, enough police to maintain order in large cities seems an impossibility, says Ogburn and Nimkoff. Political disorder is also a problem in many states, particularly in the states of West Bengal, Assam and Kerala, where political revolutions are frequent. Disorderly demonstrations also can be seen. Bureaucracy. The existence of a large number of governmental employees is called bureaucracy. The administrative unit under which they work is called a bureau. The system of similar employment in large private business is named a private bureaucracy. Since a bureaucracy is explained as a government by bureaus, bureaucrats are thought of as white-collar workers. Bureaucracy has been growing steadily in public and private offices, industries, and business. Those who work in these units are said to create a new social class. They are assumed to have vested interest in the growth of the government. Impersonal social relations characterize bureaucratic organizations. Government and industry administer power through the machinery provided by the bureaucracy. Bureaucratic organization also extends to political parties. Recent trends in governmental functions. Governments have been increasing the number of their functions in the recent past. These increases are not all additions of totally new functions, though there are new administrative units. These new functions of government include a multitude of activities which are of three kinds: social service, production, and war. The social service state. Most of the activities of government are designed to serve citizens and various institutions of society. Thus, agricultural price supports help the farmers, a high tariff protects small industries, the help to the old age and orphans, and the regulation of money and credit is a help to everyone. The social services which the state may give seem almost infinite. Here we recognize the principle of service by a friendly government. The social service state helps the sick, unemployed, the aged and the destitute. State gives financial aid to business. It also gives subsidies to certain industries. Economic and military aid to foreign countries benefit Indian industries indirectly. It should be noted that the city government were the first to develop social services. The disposal of garbage and prevention of contagious disease in cities is the task of the government. Playgrounds for children and recreational facilities are built and maintained by the city with the help of the government. The production state. Socialists argue that government should extend their functions to the production of economic goods. India is a predominantly agricultural country. Here the problem is how to get the money to build the factories and transportation systems. The question of state in production involves the merger of government institution and economic institutions. It also affects the standard of living and the distribution of wealth and power. The war state. The war state has three chief characteristics: a vast extension of the executive functions, action with speed and unity. During a war in modern times, government influence our entire social life, when during peacetime this influence continues. War preparedness means a state ready for war. Laswell called this a garrison state. War preparedness has profound implications for democracy. The executive power of the government is to be extended. The demand for speed and unity means the sacrifice of such democratic procedure as deliberation, debate, and popular control. Government democracy or dictatorship. Some social trends in modern times, such as big government and rapid change, make governing difficult for democracies and our invitation to more towards rule without consulting people, which we call dictatorship. Some trends facilitate democracy. Such, for instance, are the rapid communication inventions. The public sample poll is also an invention of great potential usefulness in quickly familiarizing the leaders with what the people think. But this social invention is in its infancy and may be expected to evolve. It shows up at times the ignorance of the people, says Ogburn Nimkoff. Difference between state and society. In the foregoing paragraphs, we have studied the characteristics of government and the state. Let us see the differences between the state and society. We shall define society as the complex of organized associations and institutions within the community. Thus, society is considered as an organization which represents both associations and institutions. Society is a role of social relationship. It is a necessity for proper development of man. Because of its evolutionary character, we call society a dynamic institution. It has no constitution and legal system. But it is bound by social constitution and certain social customs. Some of the differences between state and society are given here under. 1. The modern state has to perform almost all functions which are directly or indirectly related to social life. But the scope of the activity is limited. Example, the state cannot interfere in the religious life of the people. The entire gamut of social life is the scope of society. Society makes man. He cannot grow without society. 2. Society has come earlier than state. Primitive man lived in society then, when there was no state or when there was no political organization to regulate his life. 3. State has a territory. Its laws are applicable only within the territory. It cannot operate its laws beyond the territory. On the other hand, a society has extraterritorial limits, example, the Red Cross Society. State performs only political functions, whereas the society helps the all-sided development of the individual, including his mental, moral and physical advancement. Limits of state rights. State cannot have absolute authority. If complete authority is given to the state, it is considered as a serious blow to the moral freedom of the individual. Even the state cannot think of controlling the thoughts and feelings of a person, because it will put an end to his individuality. Ultimately, all social institutions are merely the means to an integral development of man, and the state is no exception. In fact, even the legal viewpoint sets some limits upon statutory rights. R.N. Sharma gives the following factors which limit the rights of the state. Fundamental rights. The citizens of every state are given certain fundamental rights. These fundamental rights are immune to any state control. Rights of social organization. There are many social organizations within a state which have their own rights and which are essential to social life. Normally, the state does not violate the rights of these social organizations. Rights due to social traditions, customs, and conventions. Normally, the state does not interfere with the social customs, traditions, conventions, and the rights ensuring from them. Constitution of the state. The Constitution of the state too limits the rights of the state. The rights of the citizens in a democracy, dictatorship, and various other constitutions are different from each other. In asserting its authority, the state has to pay due attention to other states and international bodies. Any overlooking of this aspect can even endanger its existence. Thus, when a state uses its rights, it keeps in view not only the rights and duties of its own citizens and their social institutions but other states as well. In brief, the fundamental rights of citizens, social customs, traditions and conventions, rights of social organizations and nature of the state and international institutions limit the rights of the state, otherwise the state is sovereign in its limited area. Thus, even from the legal or practical viewpoint, the rights of the state are not unlimited. Functions of a modern state. The functions of a modern state may be divided into two kinds, compulsory and voluntary. Compulsory functions of the state. The functions of a state are as comprehensive as its rights. R.M. Sharma gives the following compulsory functions of the state. Defense against foreign attack. The most urgent function of a state is the defense of the country against foreign attack. It has to make adequate preparation in the form of armed forces and armaments. Internal peace and security. The state polity at home is as important as its foreign policy. It is the prime duty of the state to maintain internal peace and security. An increase in communal riots, thefts, cases of dacoity, and rebellion can endanger the existence of the state itself. The state maintains peace and order through police and its armed forces, army, navy, and air force. Protection of the rights of citizens. In every state, the citizen possesses certain rights to life, property, liberty, and freedom of thought, etc. It is incumbent upon the state to protect these rights, for which it has to formulate essential laws, arrange for proper administration and enforcement, and organize the courts of justice. Justice. In this way, justice is a compulsory function of the state. This provides for obedience of laws in the state, maintains order, and protects the rights of everyone. Voluntary function of the state. Provision of education. In the modern age, all states consider it their duty to make adequate arrangements for the education of the citizens. A state of uneducated citizens can never progress. Thus, the state makes arrangements for primary schools and colleges and universities so that higher education in sciences, agriculture, and the humanities may become possible. Arrangements are made for establishing research centers, libraries, zoos, storehouses, and art classes, etc. Efforts are made to provide free primary education. Capable students are awarded scholarships by the state. But the state should avoid unnecessary interference in the affairs of the educational institutions. Maintenance of health along with education. Modern states try to provide for the protection of health. Provision is made for sanitation, hospitals, free medicine, vaccination, and essential energizing food for the poor. More medical colleges are open to end the dearth of capable doctors. Government research centers and training schools for nurses are opened. Protection of the old, poor, and invalid. Modern states have also begun making arrangements for the old, unemployed, and invalid citizens. They are given financial aid. The old people are taken care of. Orphanages and homes for destitute are opened. Agreement of public welfare services. The state organizes the railways, postal and telegraphic facilities, wireless, etc. It is the duty of the state to make arrangements for means for transportation such as buses, railway, aeroplanes, ships, etc. Social and economic improvement. Another of the state's duty is effecting social and economic improvements. The state lays down laws against harmful customs and makes necessary for their enforcement. Encouragement of trade and industry. It is also the duty of the state to encourage trade and industry and to develop it as well in almost everywhere in the world. It is the state which standardizes the scales of measurement and weighing. The country cannot benefit by international trade if it does not make proper laws for import and export. The state should establish factories of the key industries in order to implement and initiate other industries in the country. The state should also encourage cottage industries. Organization of labor. The state should direct its effort to the improvement of conditions of laborers and lay down rules to obviate the probability of their exploitation. It is the responsibility of the state to make efforts towards labor welfare. Proper use of natural resources of the country. A country can become powerful because of land, forests, rivers, minerals, and agricultural products. Maximum benefit should be extracted from them. On this subject, the state should direct the necessary precautionary measures, research and search for new minerals, and lay down laws for the utilization of forests, mines, land, etc. Arrangement of recreation. In order to maintain novelty and excitement in the life of public, the state should provide means for recreation. For this, film industry, dramatic societies, etc. should be encouraged. Distinction between state and government. The terms state and government are quite often confused in day-to-day use. This confusion arises because government represents the will of the state and also that the government is one of the most important organs of the state. The important differences between state and government are given here under by Mukhi H.R. State is all-comprehensive and has three organs, namely, the executive, legislature, and judiciary. Government is just one limb of the state, and as such it is not all-comprehensive. State is something abstract and thus cannot be seen. It can only be imagined. Example, Bharat Mata. Government can be seen because it consists of persons. We can see the Council of Ministers at work. Changes in the state come very infrequently and the boundaries of a state may not change for years and centuries together. Changes in a government come rather quite frequently. Normal life of a government in a state is usually 4 to 5 years. The state consists of all the people who live in its territory. The government consists of only few persons. Example, our government consists of only 50 to 60 ministers and a few thousands of public servants. State has no form. A government can be of any form, that is, it can be unitary, federal, or parliamentary or presidential. Welfare state. The welfare state has come into prominence and its policies are being followed in modern times. The welfare state may be explained as a state which takes upon itself to provide social services to the nation, to bring under public ownership important industries, placing certain controls on private enterprise, and to organize democratic planning on a national scale. In our country, civil aviation, life insurance, and some banks are also nationalized as well as the many river and valley projects under construction. Steel factories are also now owned and managed by the state. The objectives of the welfare state related mostly to the economic field and consist in the redistribution and readjustment of incomes to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. It tries to prevent through taxation, excessive inequalities of income and increase national production. These objectives are found in the tentative outline of the second five-year plan of India, namely, A. A sizable increase in national income so as to raise the level of living in the country. B. Rapid fuller employment. C. Social justice. Quotes, Gisbert P. The welfare state has been described as a compromise between the two extremes of communism on the one hand and unbridled individualism on the other. The welfare state provides economic security for the working classes. They are protected in old age, sickness and chronic unemployment by the state. It tries to provide full employment. Summary. Government is one of the major factors in our contemporary life. Government is very simple and hardly seen among the people of simplest material culture. Governments have been increasing the number of their functions in the recent past. These increases are not all additions of totally new functions, though there are new administrative units. Most of the activities of government are designed to serve citizens and various institutions of society. Sociologists argue that government should extend their functions to the production of economic goods. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe and share.